What's the role of environment in one's healing journey?
The role of environment. Well, it really depends who's in your environment, right? Like people say you are an average of the five people you are with. So if you have people around you who are always talking about mindfulness and eating healthy and exercising, then you will naturally become like them, right? Or if there's, or on the other, it's the flip side. If you have friends who don't do any of this and they still enjoy drinking and partying every other day, or just watching movies back to back, so of course that's going to again have an impact on you. They might, they might tell you why they might laugh at you if you would want to take up a therapy session, and just due to their pressure you might not do it, or you will do it and not tell them.
I totally relate to that and I understand. But help me understand. And this is coming from a place where I have seen one of my friends going through this. As the only, boy in the family, you are expected to be taking care of your parents and live with them through the life in our Hindu houses. That's one of the basic or default expectations that comes with living in our society today and from the past as well. And at times, the environment or the surroundings of the house are the triggers for that boy or that person. And how many sessions that person might have taken, it's not really letting him out. So how could somebody, going through, and I'm sure a lot of people go through this, where
A lot.
often for them their triggers are the people in their house. It could be their spouses, their siblings, or their parents. But either they are not independent enough to go out, to go out and stay independently on their own, or it is because of the responsibilities on them, they're not able to take that decision. So how can somebody in this case where, they are continuously being, exposed to the same traumas which have created that wounds for the inner child since childhood, how could they heal from this trauma?
So healing happens at different levels. It's like an onion, and we are peeling one layer after the other. So when we are healing, sometimes we are healing, we are really working on one particular issue, but while working on that we end up sorting something else. So when a person like this undergoes healing, so
Mhm.
he will really then uh, open the inner wisdom, the inner dialogue, and maybe then have an answer to where he wants to go next and how, what are the steps he wants to take next. He might find the courage to face his father. Sometimes, so I had this one client who was so scared of telling his dad that he's not interested in the family business, and he was uh, his uh, his passion really was, what was it? I think it was not, yeah, it was singing, yeah.
Mhm.
And he just never ever spoke about it, right? And he was unhappy, he was very unhappy with his life, every day going to office, doing a 9 to 8 job. And he told me for the last 10 years he's doing this, he's not happy. And then when I asked him that what makes him happy, he said it's only and only doing riyaz and singing. Or I think he was playing the tabla, I don't remember what it was, right? So that's what, when we started healing the inner child, his inner child,
Yep.
he realized, so something just changed for him, you know. I had told him in the session to revisit his journal. He used to write a journal, and he revisited that journal and he realized, and something shifted for him after he read the journal. And he said, no, enough, that's it. Like, the shell, the eggshell just cracks open and you just can't be inside because it's suffocating you for so many years, and you have to come out of it. And that was his moment when he said, okay, enough, now I'm going to speak up for myself, I'm going to lead an authentic life, I'm not going to be like this unhappy. And that made him face his dad. And he told his dad that he's not interested in the 9 to 5 job. And it was easy. Like he said, I made it a big deal in my head. But when my dad heard me out, my dad was fine. Of course, he was a bit taken aback, but he was fine. Like he could have a proper conversation with his father. So inner child healing really opens up the space inside you, and you really come from an inner knowing, and you can then tap into your wisdom of how you want to go about things.
Apurva, just getting onto a different side of things, because today we are living in the era where everything is just available at a single tap of Google on our mobile phones or on our desktops. What are some of the common misconceptions that you have heard about inner child healing, and how can people avoid them?
Okay, so one major misconception is that it's easy, like that I'll just fix them in 1 or 2 sessions, that once you heal the inner child it's done, and you don't want to do anything further. But that's not the case, because like I said, it takes a few sessions uh, to really understand the inner child and work with the inner child. So that is one. And some other misconception is that okay, I have clients telling me that there's not, my childhood was amazing, this, you will not find anything in my childhood that went wrong. I was such a happy kid, I turned out pretty fine. And then I said, okay, if you turned out fine, why are you here? And then they say, oh, you listen, this is the struggle I'm going through. And then I challenge them that I will find something in their past. There is some relevance of the present moment with the past. And then we dig deep into the past and we do find a lot of things. And then they also start realizing that, oh my God, this was not a small thing. This, like, because, we feel, हाँ, this तो छोटी सी बात है, तो क्या हुआ? But then they start realizing that those small, small things also have impacted them.
I was last year going through naturopathy, and I started some of my sessions during that time, just basic discovery sessions with one life coach. And one of the advice that I got from her was, while you're going through naturopathy and these sessions, there are going to be a lot of emotions coming out which you would not be able to identify or relate to. You need to be, precautionary of those and need to manage those. So is it the same? Because again, as you just mentioned about some of the people who, of your clients that who never realized that there were some traumas deeply hidden of their childhood, and a reflection of that they were able to see in the adult life, and then they came to you for some solutions. So witnessing or getting acquainted to those emotions that are within us somewhere, do they bring out emotions which people cannot explain?
Well, sometimes this does happen. Like they don't want to talk about something. They do remember something and then they say that, oh, I don't want to talk about it. So it's all about creating a safe space for them to talk about certain things that are making them uncomfortable, you know. And then I share about my life with them, my childhood. And then when I start becoming vulnerable, they realize that, okay, like our challenges are everyone's challenges.
Some of the common issues that we hear a lot these days, Apurva, are stress, anxiety, depression. And again, it's becoming very serious, point these days, where even UN and WHO have identified mental health as the next big pandemic that the human race could be looking at. How does the traumas of the inner child or healing of the inner child, help us cater these issues of stress, anxiety, and depression?
So healing the inner child really helps people to recognize, the main thing is recognizing and understanding their triggers. Like you realized that, okay, I'm not eating the right way, that this is emotional eating. That was you becoming aware, right?
Yep.
So we help the clients become aware of their patterns, of their choices, right? And so by nurturing the inner child, individuals learn to acknowledge and process their emotions instead of suppressing them. So there's a lot of unprocessed emotions in us since childhood, because really nobody was processing it for us, right? I'm not blaming the parents, but they also had their own traumas and things to take care of, and they did their best that they could. So there were a lot of feelings that left unprocessed inside us, and that's why we are who we are, and we chose those coping mechanisms. So that's why in inner child healing, when we start processing these emotions, that's when that voice, that inner child voice inside us, it becomes smaller and smaller, right? The inner child is really tantruming and angry from within. Whenever we get triggered, it's that inner child inside us, and when we start processing that, we kind of then learn to respond and not react. you know this emotional regulation can lessen feelings of overwhelm, or it contributes to lower anxiety and stress levels. And healing also fosters self compassion. So individuals, like, they learn to treat themselves with kindness rather with criticism, and this shift can mitigate feelings of worthlessness, which is often associated with depression, and they start creating a more positive self image of themselves.
Apurva, a child is expressive and communicative. The child is full of energy. And as we grow, we often have, we have individuals who become expressionless. They are not able to express themselves. How can somebody, really navigate that journey of starting to express themselves, be communicative about their feelings?
Right.
How can they, really navigate this through and heal themselves?
So journaling is your answer for that, for sure. Okay.
Okay.
One of the ways you can learn to communicate. So in journaling, it's really, you write about your feelings, about how you felt when you were a child, or if you are going through a struggle, and you write about it. And then as you're writing and then you read what you've written, you realize that, oh, I didn't know I was thinking this, or I didn't know I was feeling this. And then you learn to articulate better, right? You learn to then communicate, because you finally know what you're thinking. You get clarity on it, and then you're able to communicate that to others. So journaling is one of them, and I am really, really fond of this modality called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique.
Mhm.
I think that just is one modality which can give quick results.
Okay.
So even that can be helpful in this situation that you're talking about.
No, I have used or resorted to journaling at times where last year I had, a quarrel with one of my very close friends, and I really didn't know how to express in words because I'm often, told by my parents or my siblings that when I'm angry, I speak things which I don't want to, and they are pretty hurtful. So, and I didn't want to hurt that friend. So what I did was wrote down the whole thing, the whole episode that happened in form of a story where I tried to put myself in that person's shoes, or and just build that whole story around in 2 3 parts over my personal blog that I often write.
Mhm.
And until I did that, I was in so much of stress, so much of procrastination happening. A lot of scenarios I was just contemplating, thinking in my head, which never would have been true. And once I wrote those thoughts down in different parts, it took some time. It was probably stretched over near about 2.5 months or so. But yes, once everything from my head was out on that piece of paper, probably in this case my blog, I felt so relaxed. I felt so calmed out. That overall trigger, if it was at a level of 9 on 10 when I didn't write it, after writing it down, it just came down to 3 or 4. So journaling does really play an a crucial role, I believe. And Purva, the whole concept of we are listening, the podcast we are having with you right now, the name primarily, the story behind it is to build an anonymous mental health forum for people to come and express themselves, share themselves, because the fear of being judged or the fear of being prejudiced with the actions after they have shared their story or their thoughts or the fears is the reason a lot of people don't open up.
Right.
And to cater to that, we created this anonymous mental health forum that was called We Are Listening.
Hmm.
And this podcast is an evolution of that, where we wanted to start a dialogue with people or with experts who can help these people to come out. And we have seen some stories coming in and some shares that have been coming in. They are so I don't have the right words right now. They're at times so overwhelming that you feel that how could you really help those people, but
Right.
you are powerless, you cannot be in their situation. And again, anonymity is there, so you don't know who has written that.
This is such a beautiful initiative.
Thanks a lot, thanks a lot. We
Are
haven't.
listening because this is one of the unmet need of the inner child. Am I heard? We were not heard in childhood, right? So we that is an unmet need, a big unmet need. So something like this will definitely work because we want someone to listen to us and validate us and our feelings, right?
That's true, that's true, that's the whole concept, because we often might have people who hear us, but they're not listening to us. They are often just there to give us a reply. And at times life is such that we just want to share, we just want to empty ourselves of that vessel that's filled in with so much thought, so much fear, so much
That's
anxiety.
very true. That's very true. A lot of times when I start talking to my clients, like I don't even begin with inner child healing and they feel better because they've shared their story with me. So I can totally relate to what you're saying.
So that's the whole initiative of We Are Listening. And any final thoughts you have, Apurva, for our listeners before we wind up this podcast, this episode?
I just want to tell all the listeners that we all have an inner child inside us that wants to be healed, that wants to be heard, that wants to be seen, that wants to feel safe. Okay. And please, if you can, heal that inner child in you. Healing that part is essential so that we lead a more peaceful life. Okay. And also, we do this work I do is really because, you know, I don't want people to pass on their generational trauma to their children. So I did this work because I didn't want my traumas to get passed on to my children. So that's my work to stop it here, right? Because we don't want to project it on our children. So it's very difficult to change, but at least let's do this for our children. Please heal. Yeah, that's my message.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Apurva. The whole discussion with you was really, incredibly insightful. And I understand today that inner child healing is a journey that everyone, I believe, needs to take to the point they feel it has helped them and they have healed out of it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Pleasure is all mine. Pleasure is all mine, Apurva. I hope, this message reaches out to the world out there and we are able to make at least one person realize and take that step towards the healing journey. Listeners, if you have any questions or queries, please feel free to reach out and we will be putting in Apurva's coordinates in the description below. Please feel free to connect with her for any questions you might have around inner child healing, or if you would like to take sessions from her. Her details would be in the description below. Until then, stay tuned and we are listening. Thank you. Girls